Well, hello, and thank you for joining us for the next installment of our Alumni Speaker Series. We have been very fortunate to have a lot of great alums that have been participating in this series so far and sharing their experiences and some words of wisdom with us. And today we are fortunate to have Greg Prudich with us. Greg, just to tell you a little bit about him, he is a Mercer County native growing up down in Montcom. He graduated from Concord in 1982 with a BA in political science. And then after that, he headed down south for a little bit and went to the South Texas College of Law, where he got his JD in 1985. And then Greg has been practicing law in the Princeton area for 35 years now. In addition to that, he also has been for 22 years serving as a member of the Mercer County Board of Education, serving as past president and vice president. So very involved in the education side of things in our county. He does live in Princeton with his wife of 39 years. They have 4 children and 2 grandchildren. And Greg is very passionate about history, science, and public education. And so, Greg, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. And with that, I will turn it over to you, where the title of his presentation today is Giving Back a Life in Service. So we're excited to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, thank you and good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to talk today. Community service and volunteerism is essential to society, I believe. I've watched in my lifetime, having grown up in Montcom, unfortunately impoverished part of our county, far too many that don't have, that need the assistance from the community, from neighbor to neighbor to make their lives better. I grew up with a single father. We lost our mother when we were young. And he spent his lifetime raising his children and giving to his community. He was the community physician. And the stories that we've been told since he passed send chills on us sometimes. The things he did quietly, without accolades, without seeking any public accolades, he just did things. And so we learned from him at a very young age that you do for your community because that's what you're supposed to do. He showed me the value of service to others. He showed that you meet needs where they are. And things that we did growing up, for example, there was a flood, a pretty serious flood when we were growing up. And I remember as a child getting in vehicles and moving furniture out of homes as the flood was rising. Because that's what you did. We were in the Boy Scouts, a well-known community service organization. In church, we served food. We did the things that we were supposed to do, and it was just understood. There was no long conversation about this is what you're supposed to do. It's just what you do. So I learned early on that, and what it taught me as I've gotten older and spent more life on this world is that community service is the grease that skids our society. It's the thing that we need to be better functioning because there are so many needs that can't be filled by government or businesses or public schools, secondary schools that we have to have in order for individuals to function. So we got to go around and we got to fill these needs. It benefits others, but it also benefits us. The quiet enjoyment and feeling of joy you receive when you do these things is immeasurable. So as I thought about doing this, I thought, well, how do you approach an issue like this? It's easy to simply say you need to get out and you need to volunteer. But it's a little more than that, I think. First, you got to find your passion. What is it that you want to do? Because if you don't find that passion, then you're probably not going to be as intent on making sure that you get involved. So for me, it was neighbors, family, children, having grown up in an impoverished community, and having as a child going into homes where the floor was dirt, not wood, not carpet, not rugs, but dirt. People don't believe that, but that still exists today. Those homes may have a refrigerator and they may have a TV, but the floor is packed dirt. So how do you deal with that? How do you help that in society? Well, for me, it became pretty clear as my children grew up that education really is the key to producing and eliminating poverty. So I started thinking about that, and I thought, well, if that's what's going to work, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get into education some way, somehow. For others, it might be substance abuse. In where we live, there's a lot of people that struggle with substance abuse. You may have a family member, I know I do, that has substance abuse issues. It may be domestic violence. It may be just feeding the hungry or clothing the hungry. Whatever your passion is, seek it out. The next thing you got to think about is, where's the greatest need? What in your community needs the most? So in ours, again, it's hunger, it's poverty, it's abuse, it's substance abuse. But again, it's also education, because the lack of education can become a generational problem. We have to break that lack of education with our children. And some come to us, direct babies come to us. Kids that don't have the resources, they don't have books in their home. They don't have coloring implements. They don't have toys that promote thought. They just sit at home and watch TV or not watch TV. So again, for me, it became, that's our need. If we can get these children educated and break this cycle, then they're going to find work in our economy, and they're going to succeed. But it may be working at a food pantry. It may be volunteering at a clothing closet, or serving food, fixing a playground, volunteering as a coach. That's a big one, because children need adults to look up to. It may be going to a school and reading, assisting people in their homes. The elderly need help. There's a lot of lonely elderly people that just a 30-minute conversation would make a difference in their lives. So those are great needs in our area, and those are needs that would be beneficial to all of us if we could spend that time to do it. So how do we serve then? Well, there's a lot of ways. There's through churches, because in our area, the food pantries are typically operated by churches. So are the clothing pantries. There are community action agencies that need volunteers. They're funded by the government, but they can sure use help. CASE is one in the area that we have that does a variety of things. There are a lot of not-for-profits. You can serve in government. You can serve in organizations like Rotary or the Lions Club that do a lot of public service. So there's a variety of ways you can approach this. For me, I kind of got dragged into it because of my children. So you got kids in school, and then you decide, somebody says, well, will you come and read to the class? And you go, okay, I'll come and read. So you read, and you start meeting teachers, and you start meeting administrators. And they say, we got a fall festival. We really need help. Can you come and volunteer? And you go, okay, if it's a fundraiser, I'll do it. And in our case, for example, we became the haunted house people, my wife and my family. And it evolved to the point where we actually had a house that we converted completely into a haunted house. And it was so much fun, and it was so joyful, and we raised a lot of money. So we got a lot out of it, and we still laugh this many years later about what we did, and with friends that we didn't have before we did this, people that we met. Those unintended benefits of volunteer work, of community service, all the great people we've met. And those benefits are just immeasurable. The friendships, the serving yourself. There is a great satisfaction and joy in knowing you did something to benefit others. You also gain knowledge and skills. We learn a lot of things by doing. If you're, for example, not good with your hands, and then you're asked, well, can you come help work at the playground? And you're going to learn with others to build, to paint, to cut. That's a skill that's useful in life. If you own a home, you know that. So it's a reward in so many ways, but the biggest reward is just doing it, and the reward that you get from doing it. For me, after the local school thing, it then became, well, the administrators would say, this fellow over here seems interested. So then you become involved in countywide committees for whatever it might be. The local school improvement council. and you become more involved and you meet more people and they start more interested in you. So you get to, as they say, watch how the sausage is made. You're more involved. So then I thought, well, I'm going to run for public office. I think I could help. And I did so unsuccessfully, as many do. But then someone said, why don't you run for the Board of Education? And I thought, well, okay. And I ran and I did so successfully. And it has been one of the great joys in my life. It can be infuriating. It can be aggravating. It can be frustrating. You can wonder why there are so many rules and regulations and why there's not enough money and why there aren't enough resources in terms of human resources. But in the end, you can do things if you simply persist. So So we've in the 22 years I've been on the board, there's been a lot of changes in public education, some good ones and some not so good ones. And it never ends, as people in higher education know. It never ends. You're constantly looking for better ways, for new ideas. You hear someone else doing something, and you go, "That's a great idea. We will steal that." And it is the thing about the Board of Education is it is community service because there really isn't much pay to speak of. You spend a whole lot of time. I think one time I saw someone, I think I'm getting about 75 cents an hour. It's not, that's not why you do it. It's because you're doing something that's lasting, that's going to matter to people long after you're gone from this world. And in Mercer County's case, for example, we've built 5 new schools in my 22 years. Those matter. And all you have to do is walk into a building with children that came from an old decrepit building and they're now in a new building to know how much it matters. The faces, so our room is the temperature is going to be normal in this room. We're not going to be dying in the winter and burning up in the summer. Oh, we have desks that we can actually sit in that don't feel like they're falling apart. The technology's there, the security's there. We've built community centers for the schools, and we've put additions on schools. So it's been really, really valuable that way. One of my passions in education, because you can have a sub-passion and a passion, has been the technical education program, because those programs have so much value to people that aren't seeking out higher education. They don't feel either capable, ready, or interested in a degree. So you look at them and go, well, there are tons of skills out there that we need. We need computer techs, and we need electricians, and we need HVAC techs, and we need so many different kinds of people to do work, and they're good paying jobs. We discovered during this transition when we were working hard on the program that a welder that can do circular welding, they make more than I make as an attorney. Because it's such a specific skill. So, and those are the types of areas where children that come from backgrounds where higher education is not something that they're going to think about matters, because that's one you can turn them to and go, well, your dad was a mechanic, so why don't you become something else? Or grandpa worked in the coal mines, why don't you be a welder? And so that connects to them, and they're interested. So in service, you can change lives. In service, you can make a difference to an individual and to the larger community. So it's very rewarding. One of my passions is the holidays. We have a really large extended family. The last count, my siblings and all of our children and grandchildren, there are 35 of us when we get together. And we get together a lot, particularly at the holidays. And you see that and you get such joy out of it. And then you look around and you think not everybody has that. So about 1956, my mother and father started the Montcom Community Christmas Tree Program. And what he always said was, they don't just need toys, they need food. So at Christmas time, I again recall being in just crowds of people handing boxes of food and toys to the families for Christmas time. Well, we've continued that. This past year was the 64th year. And it is totally volunteer. We have to raise the money. We have to get the We got to get the packages. We got to wrap the packages. We got to get the food. We got to box the food. And it is such a great joy when you walk that box out to the car and you put it in the car, and the parents there, and of course the children are typically with them, and they just look at you and say, "Thank you so much." And that's, you can't imagine the chills you get sometimes. But more importantly, you're providing a holiday to people that don't have one. They're not going to get something that we all take for granted: a Christmas tree, presents, a turkey, a holiday meal. So it's been a great joy. And what I would stress to people is, whatever time you have, whatever talent you have, whatever resource you have, provide it to your community, because it matters. It makes a difference in everyone's lives. If you have clothes that you're not wearing anymore, if you got a closet full of clothes — my wife has a closet full of clothes. I have a lot of clothes, and we periodically go through them, put them in a box, and go find one of those bins, and we put them in there. Those clothes matter to people. Coats for children. If you're at Walmart sometime and you've got an extra 20, go buy a coat, take it and put it in one of those bins. Buy a child's coat. That's using your talent, your treasure. And then your talent, whatever you can do, provide it to your community in whatever way you can find. And then time. Time's always tricky for people. But you don't need a lot of time. A half an hour here, a half an hour there. And you can do something that makes a difference in people's lives. And I urge you to do that. And it is so very important.
That's great. Thank you for sharing all that. And I know, as someone, who is also Mercer County native, I've heard stories about your dad and, the impact he did have. And so that's really, you got a great role model there. And it's great that you have been, continuing his tradition, if you will, with things like the Christmas program. That's great. Well, so I've got a few questions I just want to ask you. And so, if we do have, if there's current college students or maybe some recent graduates that are watching this, that maybe, they think, yeah, this sounds great, I want to get involved. What would you recommend to them, kind of how to get started in terms of being able to start serving and giving back?
Well, again, look at your passion, and then communicate with the organizations or agencies that are already handling those types of issues. For example, contact the local Salvation Army, the Union Mission in Bluefield. They'll put you to work. They need volunteers, and it may be going through clothes and boxing them. It may be serving food at their food services. It may be boxing food. It may be going and getting food and bringing it back. I know if you take furniture over to the Union Mission, for example, there's always volunteers there to get it out of your truck and warehouse it. It has to be sorted and dealt with. Schools will always accept volunteer work. Your churches, always. And then again, the community action agencies. CASE is one. There are places where you can go and say, I've got time. Can I help? And they'll say, oh, we'll put you right to work every time.
Well, I mean, of course, Concord's motto being, come to learn, go to serve, that is one thing that they try to emphasize here in the education. And also as a graduate, I know through a student organization that I was involved in, that gave me some good opportunities as a student to volunteer. And I think a lot of the organizations even have, community service requirements, which, you think, oh, well, they're required to do it. They might not be as excited about it. But, I've seen that could be for a student who didn't think about, an area that maybe they might be interested in or realize the real need. I think sometimes having that requirement and kind of forcing them to go initially really helps open their eyes and gets that spark in them. So I think we're fortunate to have some good student organizations that try to help out in any way that they can while they're here as students. I
think that's a really good point. It's been so long since I was in school. I had kind of forgotten it. And so that's a great point, is you do have those service organizations on campus that you could look to and ask them, well, what do you associate with? Where do you serve? It's always good to go to places that are already doing it instead of trying to recreate the wheel, because they know what to do and how to do it, and they can just use your resource to better it.
Well, now, how different has giving back been during this pandemic? How, have you seen a change? I'm sure as our whole world has changed. How's it impacted?
The service agencies I'm involved in, everything is done remotely now. We do team or Zoom meetings when we normally meet. Hands-on projects, or everybody's distanced. But you still do it. You wear your mask. You wash your hands 50 times. You try your best to keep doing the things that you need to do. The community Christmas tree program this year was still joyful, but we normally have a party. We serve food and we have music, and all that had to go by the wayside because we do it in the school at Montcom, and it was too many people, too crowded. So we boxed the boxes, got the food together, and we gave it to the families. We still got to the end point that we needed to get to. So it's a challenge, as everything with COVID is a challenge. But, we're human beings. We're resilient. We'll meet those challenges. We just have to sometimes it takes us a little while to figure out how to get there, but we inevitably get there.
And I think, the need is always great, but I feel like it seems like some areas, the need has been even greater because of the pandemic. So, we definitely don't want people to just say, well, I can't do anything right now. I got to wait till this pandemic's over, because the need does not stop.
No, it does not. In fact, you're right. It is, in many ways, it's gotten worse, particularly I've noticed for the elderly, because everyone is so attuned to the fact that they're at the highest risk.
Yes.
My mother-in-law, we don't see her a lot, and we tell her why. And she's lonely, and so you have to call her more frequently. You have to, and those are again things you can do.
Yeah.
We can't visit nursing homes now. That's out.
Right.
But I know, for example, you see pictures of people outside windows and touching the glass with their grandparent or their parent. It's very touching. And again, it matters so much. People just don't know how much that matters.
Well, so, looking back, you've, been practicing for a number of years, been serving for a number of years. Is there anything when you look back that you think you would have done differently, or anything that really stands out in your mind that was, this was a real turning point for me in terms of kind of getting to where you are today?
Well, that's interesting. I've said many times in school, in high school, and at Concord, both, my skill set was in science. It was something I understood. And I guess maybe growing up in the house of a physician, it was something I would turn to. But I had always been encouraged to go to law, so I went into law, and I've loved my career. I've had a good career. I enjoy what I do. But I think if you took me back to Concord right now, would probably head toward medicine instead of law. It's one of those things that in hindsight you go, I'm not sure I took my best skills and used them the way I could have. It's not a regret so much as something interesting as you get older. You're like, sometimes if you do things 35 years, you kind of pine for something different.
That's right.
It's like, okay, I've done this long enough. Can I do something else? At my age, it's a little late to go to medical school.
That's right.
So you can kind of think, well, that would have been an interesting profession. That maybe. Other than that, I don't think. Maybe spending more time when I was younger doing things for others. Again, when you're younger, it's not on the priority list. As you're older, you think that's what matters. So again, I encourage college students, young people, people leaving school, take that time, because we only have so much time. Once it's gone, it's gone.
I think that is a perfect note to end it on. And so, unless if you have any other closing thoughts, we can go ahead and wrap up for today.
No, I think I would just say I encourage you to use your time and your talent to benefit others, your neighbors. These are your neighbors, after all. And if we could use anything right now in this country, it is linking arms with each other and helping each other. toning down the aggravation with each other and helping each other more. It would be of great benefit to us all.
I couldn't agree more, and I think you said it really well. And again, I thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. I think this is another great session that we've had, and we appreciate you doing this for us.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Well, thank you. And that will wrap up this issue of the Alumni Speaker Series, and stay tuned for future presentations. Have a good day.